Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Good to see you all. Happy New Year's Eve. Yeah, it's a very, very snowy New Year's here. Not safe at all to drive, so not that I was going to go anywhere, but definitely not going anywhere today. So we're going to do some game development, and today what I'm focused on is fixing some buff ability problems that I was having yesterday. And I do have a solution for that, but I'll explain what's going on there. And then there's the rest of the backlog that we need to work through here. So yeah, gonna be doing that basically. And also, what else? Well, we'll see what happens. But anyway, Alchemortis is available for wishlisting on Steam. So if you're interested in a dark fantasy roguelite inventory management auto battler, where you can use alchemy to create your own synergies, then definitely check that out and wishlist it. If you would do that, I would appreciate it. And I also have the Patreon here. If you subscribe at the top tier for at least 1 month, you will get your you will get a copy of Alchemortis sent to you, and also you will be in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So this is kind of like a pre-purchase, and the benefit for that pre-purchase is your name will be listed in the in-game credits for everyone to see. So if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. And then I also have the Udemy courses. These will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. This also goes a long way to helping me pay my bills. So definitely consider checking that out as well. And you can also join the Discord. That's totally free. Liking the video, subscribing to the channel. That's also a great way to support me and my work. So that's it. Anyway, let's get right into it here. Hello, Clickertail. Welcome back. The last stream of the year. Yep. Last stream of the year. Oh, here's the cat now. Like clockwork, stream time is time for the cat to make noise. It's okay. He was just cold. I just had to put the blanket over him. Okay. Anyway. Time really does fly when you're watching a pro game developer. Well, I don't know, can I call myself professional? I think I'm like in between amateur and professional, but we'll see. But thank you. Good morning, Michael. Welcome. Good to see you again. So yesterday, one of the problems I was having is I've got a buff applicator. This is a class that extends base card ability that basically does what it says. It applies a buff. Now, the problem previously is that I was not able to intercept the magnitude of buffs and change them. And the reason that I need to do that is that's just something that I'd like to support. I'd like to be able to intercept an ability and modify it in some way in accordance with maybe a different ability. So the example where this was necessary is the paralysis duration enchant. So this is an enchantment that will increase the applied paralysis duration by 3. However, the problem was that the way the buff applicator was built before, I was not able to intercept it at all using this ability magnitude modifier. This ability magnitude modifier, this is basically just a card ability that can call a modifier function on other abilities that come from the card. So what we do in here is we check if the ability that's being executed is some kind of buff or debuff, and then we can go ahead and change stats about that buff or debuff in here from this ability. Anyway, the problem was that the way that I've done the buffs is that there is no way to modify the magnitude because there was no the inheritance or the implementation of interfaces was not there. So for instance, this ability magnitude modifier, it takes an I ability magnitude as an argument. And so only things which extend I ability magnitude can actually be modified by this ability magnitude modifier. And the problem was that the way the buffs were written is that they were just being directly applied by the buff applicator, and the buff applicator did not extend that or implement rather that interface. And buffs are an entirely different thing. So the buffs and debuffs that actually end up on cards, they're not abilities, so they're kind of like a totally separate system. Anyway, with all that said, basically what the solution is here is I changed the buff applicator. I actually made it generic. It can accept any generic type of card buff. And then this buff applicator implements I ability magnitude so that we can intercept it and change the magnitude. And this this also takes a buff factory. So this function is responsible for creating a new instance of the buff that we are trying to apply. So what I did is I modified this now. This accepts the magnitude that's stored in the buff applicator as an argument. So this is the way that I kind of have gotten around those issues that I described. And now it's just a matter of translating all of the current buff functionality over to this. Anyway, so yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then that makes two of us. Good morning, Ninja Link. Okay. So, the other benefit of doing it this way with the generic is I also fixed the booster configuration issue. So these ability types, these are all the ability types that can drop inside of a booster or be filtered for the booster. So fire, shield, paralysis, so on and so forth. But what I can do now is I can do like type of buff applicator, and then let's just say mischance debuff. So now suddenly what I'm able to do is I'm able to say basically anything that applies a blind or a mischance debuff is the same thing, can be filtered on in the boosters now. So now I can filter the booster availability by what type of buff or debuff they apply, which I will be doing later. But yeah, so anyway, it solved a number of problems, but now the other problem is I need to get rid of all this stuff. So I think we're going to start with this. So there's going to be a little bit of refactoring that has to go on here, but I'm going to start by deleting paralysis here. Delete. Hello, Lucas Lima. Can't wait to play this game. Also, your course on Udemy is incredible. Thank you. Appreciate both of those sentiments. Trying to get the game done as quickly as possible for you all. And yeah, I'm glad you liked the course. I'm very, very happy to hear that. So in here, buff applicator, we would do new buff applicator paralysis debuff. This would accept the query target provider, and then this would also accept magnitude paralysis debuff duration. Okay, and so now paralysis duration. Right, so this buff applicator, so we're gonna, this has to be magnitude here. So we're gonna use the magnitude coming from the buff applicator and pass that along to the paralysis debuff here. But then what I'm gonna do is we could put the buff applicator there. And now what I could do is I could set the base magnitude of the buff applicator, and I'm gonna also need to do this here. So buff applicator.set magnitude duration, set base magnitude duration, and then we're gonna do scaled duration. So yeah, so now that the buff applicator holds a magnitude value, it just becomes easy to pass that along into the various debuffs and whatnot. Now this is probably going to break down if I ever have a debuff that requires like multiple multiple properties. So like for instance, mischance debuff, I've got duration and a mischance here. And the question then becomes, what does the magnitude correspond to, right? Does it correspond to the duration or the mischance? Right now, every instance where I'm using this it's corresponding to the miss chance. So the magnitude is basically what the percentage chance is to miss. But I could definitely see a situation where I would want to modify the duration here. But that is a problem for future Firebelly. The philosophy here is we fix one problem at a time. Anyway, so that will come back to bite me in the rear end in the future. But for now, this approach is getting us in the right direction. This needs to be description utils.pluralize buff applicator.get base magnitude turns. Okay. Hello, Jahar. Happy New Year's Eve to you as well. Welcome back. Good to see you. Hello, Artem. Courses are amazing. And hey, by the way, yeah, welcome. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Okay, so that paralysis should basically work. So now I think that has been effectively replaced. Now I need to go and look at all the places where buff applicator is used. So let's open up the buff applicator. Let's find all references. And now it's time to just go fix everything. Oh, did I already fix these ones? Oh, I did. I did not fix this one though. So yeah. So here we do a buff applicator. We do base targets. Okay, this one should be relatively easy then. We do buff applicator critical chance buff. This will pass in the magnitude here. And we'll just go ahead and pass in the magnitude as this option, but this has to be divided by 100. The problem with the I ability magnitude here is that it's only integers. So for anything that's a percent, I just use a 1 to 100 or a 0 to 100 integer, and then I just convert that to a float, either, yeah, when I'm passing it in as the constructor argument here. And I think that's fine because I don't think I'm going to get into like 5.5% crit. I like to use nice whole numbers. So if anything is going to be percentage based, it's going to go up by at least increments of 1%, but typically it'll be increments of 5 or 10 or 25. I just think that looks nicer, makes more sense. Anyway, buff applicator set base magnitude. I think we're good there. Okay. Buff applicator. So now we've got this miss chance here. So I'm going to get rid of that. This has to be an int base miss chance 25. When we scale it, we make an additive scalar of 5. And then we could say var new miss chance is equal to that. We could do buff applicator set magnitude like so. And then we could do divided by 100f, that works. And then in here, buff applicator set magnitude, set base magnitude. Then we need that to be the miss chance debuff magnitude. Yeah, there we go. So that's basically what the refactor looks like. But that should be nice. Cool. All right, buff applicator. Eyeball paralysis debuff. So we're going to use the base paralysis duration, new paralysis duration, buff applicator set magnitude, set base magnitude, paralysis debuff. There, pass in the magnitude. There, the magnitude is the duration for paralysis. So there we go. Buff applicator, get base magnitude. Oh wait, can I use... Oh, I can just use the paralysis ability builder. So let's try that. Var paralysis is equal to ability builder dot paralysis. Duration is what? 3 max targets. Oh, do I have no way of configuring this? Now I should probably refactor this. Son of a biscuit. Son of a biscuit. All right, let's to use configure action on this. I'm going to undo what I was doing here. We're just going to leave this for now. We're just going to focus on the buff applicator changes. Okay, and then buff applicator, I need to do this. Buff applicator dot set magnitude. Set magnitude, okay. I think we're good there. Horse dung, mischance debuff, blind chance. So we got to get rid of these. Base blind chance needs to be an int 10. Okay. Mischance debuff, magnitude divided by 100f. Paralysis debuff, magnitude. Okay. Blind buff applicator. Okay. Paralysis, set magnitude. Var new mischance is equal to that. This needs to be make additive scalar 5. Var new duration. Okay, and then we do that. Okay. Load to percent blind buff applicator dot get base magnitude divided by 100f. Paralysis debuff buff applicator get base magnitude. Okay, I think that's right. Okay, good morning, Emerson. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. I'm on lesson 30 of the Survivors course, starting to pause the episode before you do something and sometimes get it right. I'm on Patreon, so I can't leave a Udemy review, but 10 out of 10 so far. Okay, so that's great, Jhar. So first, what do you think of the courses being on Patreon? Is it acceptable? Because it was a very big challenge to find a place where I could host the course in a way that's like minimally costly to me, but also friendly enough for students to go through. So yeah, what do you think of the experience of taking the course on Patreon? And by the way, anyone who's watching, one of the perks of being a Patreon member is you get unlimited access to all of my course content. So as long as you're subscribed on Patreon, you could view any of the course content for free. Well, it's not free. I mean, you're paying subscription for it, but I think generally that would be cheaper than buying all of the courses individually. So definitely consider taking advantage of that. No New Year's celebration over there? Well, here's the thing. In my area, there are like feet of snow. So no one's going to be out and about today and the roads are bad. To do refactor the refactor, yeah. Hello, Pascal H. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. All right, it's humble work here, refactoring, but I've actually been having quite a bit of fun. I've actually been having quite a bit of fun doing these various refactors because they are actually improving my ability system quite noticeably. As I'm building out the game, the ability system is becoming more and more streamlined and flexible at the same time, which is the best of both worlds. Yeah, it works perfectly, TBH. I'm a senior web dev, so not really struggling with the actual programming, so the lack of forum isn't a huge deal, but I imagine others may miss that part. Yeah, the Q&A is by far probably the best feature of Udemy, the ability to direct message, but you could also do that on Patreon. You can send me I think you could send me a message on Patreon if you have any issues with anything, and there is like a comment section under each post for the courses, but it's definitely not as organized or as useful as the Udemy Q&A section. Minnesota life. I am in the Midwest. What state? Well, I've already said I live in Ohio, so there you go. Maybe a course channel in Discord for Patreons or something with a forum mode might help people others if needed, though. That is a good idea. Yeah, I should do that. I should do that. That's crazy to me. I'm almost melting in the summer here. Yeah. Yeah, it's very cold, very windy, very snowy. Okay, so we've got the exhausted debuff. I actually don't think I need to do anything with this buff applicator because exhausted is one of those debuffs that doesn't have any magnitude or duration or anything. It's just like once a card is exhausted, it's done for the rest of combat. So yeah, I think that one's fine. Okay, we've got paralysis applicator and critical. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this paralysis duration. This becomes paralysis debuff, magnitude. Okay. Magnitude. Let's set the paralysis applicator base magnitude. Buff applicator is critical chance buff. Magnitude. This is just going to be 100 hard-coded. That's fine. Oh, this would be... No, not 100. Keep it at 1F. Okay. Cool. var paralysis duration. Why is this -1? Oh, because it paralyzes an allied minion card. Ah. Now hold on a second. If I do this query target provider to query string, let's see, the jester, minion, order by random, limit 1, query directions entire board, custom filter, has turn disabling debuff. So this here, allied, card limit string, 1 random, alignment is allied minion card. So I think what I could do in here is I can just paralyze a... I think I get rid of this actually. So I can do this and do query target provider dot to query string. I think that will work. I've been trying to standardize how the query behavior is described in English, and obviously the way to do that is just to create a method here which considers all of these options and then spits out a properly formatted string based on what options are set. So far, it has been working very well, and that makes it so that I don't have a bunch of duplicate text strings everywhere. Makes it a lot easier to try to standardize how the text reads. And the most important thing is that the querying behavior is consistent, I think. How much would you say you work on your game a day? I assume you work on it outside of streams. Yeah, admittedly, I haven't been working on it that much outside of streams the past week or so. And that's because all of my friends have been off work, so I've been spending a lot of time playing video games with them. But as the holidays conclude here, I'll be back to a normal schedule, which I usually work. It really depends. Sometimes I work on it like 4 hours a day. Sometimes I could go up to 8 hours or more. But I would say maybe my average is 4 to 6 hours a day. So 2 of those hours being streaming. Hello, Zabros. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. Game is going well. Very well. What's your current GPU? 5070 Ti? I was thinking of buying a new one before the prices go more insane as they already are. I have a 5080. And it's a really good card. I like it a lot. I have had no problems with it whatsoever. Hello, Kazori. Welcome. Okay. Continuing on. I think this one is also going to be relatively straightforward. Yeah. Cool. All right. Mandrake. Paralysis debuff. Paralysis duration. I think that works. I think that works. Okay, we're almost done. Buff applicator. So we gotta get rid of current chance, current multiplier, base multiplier, int, base chance is 10. Buff applicator, critical chance buff. This needs to become magnitude here divided by 100. That becomes magnitude there. Oh, shoot. Uh-oh. No. Maybe I can't do this. Base multiplier 75. We'll do an int there, and then we'll do magnitude divided by 100 here. That should work. Okay, scalar var new multiplier. Let's do this first. Buff applicator dot set base magnitude, and then buff multiplier applicator. Okay, current chance, new chance. Okay. Buff multiplier applicator, set new set magnitude. Oh, this needs to be make additive scalar 25. Okay. Make additive scalar 5. Okay. Buff applicator dot get base magnitude divided by 100f. Buff multiplier applicator by 100f respectively. Okay, I think we're good there. Almost done. Close others. Paralysis duration, we get rid of this. Var paralysis duration, buff applicator set base magnitude, paralysis debuff, magnitude, magnitude. Okay. Base paralysis duration, that should work. And then we can do buff applicator get base magnitude turns. Very nice. Voodoo doll. Hex debuff. This is just hard coded, so we can do paralysis debuff. Magnitude. 1. I mean, I guess well, no, I don't. Well, shoot, maybe I should do this. Oh, am I scaling the hex count? Wait a minute. I'm gonna need to go back. Which one was it? Critical chance buff. Yeah, I should do this here. Critical applicator set magnitude 100. Set base magnitude 100. I should just use the magnitude always. Okay. Anyway, did I do the same thing anywhere else? The exhausted debuff, yeah, we'll just do magnitude here. I should just make sure that the magnitude is configured inside of the buff applicator. I'll set the magnitude to 0, 0, okay. Just make sure I did everything else correctly here. I don't want to have anything hard-coded in the actual constructor here. I think I would rather have the magnitude configured inside of the exhaust or the buff applicator and then have that pass the magnitude along always, because then I will know accurately what the magnitude is every time, even if it's hard-coded. Okay, so back to the voodoo doll here. So yeah, I'm actually never changing the limit here. Hex count. So let's do query target provider limit equals hex count, var new count, new count. We don't need to store this hex count here. Oh, scalar base hex count there. And then here, this can just become target provider dot to query string. Okay. Almost done. Almost done. How's the development going? Didn't see your stream for a while. It's going very well. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's relatively easy to add new content. Everything's getting better over time, which is good. Yeah, can't complain, can't complain. Why are you using C# over GDScript? Hello, Zachary. Personal preference, that's it. That's it. Happy New Year to you, Rookie Tookie. How do you store battle log data? Is it stored in a resource or an object? Is it some kind of array or dictionary? I have a combat log manager here, which is responsible for listening for when different damage types get logged and stuff. And really, it's not doing anything super fancy. What it is doing is it is basically just formatting the strings however it needs to be formatted based on what's happening in the game. And then it emits this log added signal. And if I look for log added, this combat log UI element here listens for that on combat log added, and it simply appends that text to a rich text label. So it will do the keyword highlighting based on what's coming over in the log text. And then, yeah. That's basically all that it does. So yeah, I have this manager which just handles the logic of formatting the strings based on what's happening in the combat log or what's happening in the game. And then the combat log UI element just takes those strings and adds them to a rich text label. That's it. No way is anyone using C# for speed. It happens, but yeah, it's not. I don't think it's the main reason to choose C# for Godot for a lot of people. Should I buy a drawing pad for making arts? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't have any experience with drawing pads. So I wish I could answer that question for you, but yeah, I don't know. I'm doing well. How are you doing? There's so much way to code a logger. It's all about software design. You can use either array, dictionary, or even both. Yeah, the thing is, I don't really need to store the text data. The text data is basically just needs to be formatted for the player to see. The way that all of my game data is being stored is in the turn history contexts. And that's where I'm using arrays and dictionaries and so on and so forth to keep a running history of every ability that has executed during that combat encounter. So that's it's a different system, but that's the system where when something gets added to the turn history, that's when the combat log manager listens for that, and then it formats the string based on that history entry. So yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. Making a physics engine right now, been 4 months building it, still not finished. After that, I will dive into rendering engine and animations. Very nice, it's very impressive. I'm always impressed by people who can make their own engine with all the necessary parts. Last day of 2025 and I spent my morning gaming. Sounds like a wonderful morning. Not game dev, I lack discipline. Well, I think it's appropriate to give yourself a little bit of leeway on the holidays as well. Hello, Viadav. Welcome. Good to see you. Anyway, back to this. We're almost done. Wine buff applicator, mischance debuff. Magnitude divided by 100. Buff applicator, set magnitude 20, set base magnitude 20. Okay. Do I have... I do. So I should be able to do blind... Let's do this. Query target provider dot toString, toQuery string. Okay. That should work. Okay. Does C# have pointers? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can directly interact with them, but I think that's just kind of like implicitly how everything works under the hood when you're passing things by reference. And there are certain keywords, like you can use the ref keyword and the out keyword. I'm sure that does something under the hood. Like, the thing about C# is that there are certain things you can do that will change like what the compiled machine code is. So there are certain things that you can do in C# as a developer that could, for instance, increase performance when you apply them. But I don't know anything about that, so I don't know anything about that. At this point, why not make a video explaining why you use C# and GDScript? Wow, if you're referring to the people asking the question constantly, I don't think a video is going to help because people are going to come into this stream, they haven't seen the video, they haven't seen any previous streams, and they have a common question. So, and plus it's not, it's not that in-depth of an answer. I don't know if I could really make a video out of it if the answer is it's personal preference. I mean, I guess there's some interesting things to say there, but C# has pointers and unsafe blocks. Gotcha. Yeah, one of the reasons why I like C# and other of these like higher level languages is I don't have to do all the memory management. Like I'm not the kind of programmer where I'm like, give me control over all the memory management and I want to use pointers and like very specifically do this stuff, and like, no, I don't want to do that. I want the language, I want the tools that I'm using to do as much for me as possible. Anyway, but that's just me. That's just personal preference. Cool. We're almost done. Okay, let's build now and see what has broken. You can use unsafe keywords to be able to use pointers, but yeah, I usually don't manage it manually. Okay, so this is going to be type of buff applicator paralysis debuff. And then I can go to my booster configuration. Buff applicator paralysis debuff. Cool. Never forget that Roller Coaster Tycoon was written in assembly. All right. Let's build again. Oh, here. Can I do buff applicator paralysis here? We're gonna have to check a lot of stuff. Paralysis debuff. Okay. Let's build. Hyper namespace paralysis could not be found. Paralysis base ability. I don't know why I'm doing this, but that's right. Okay. This is a little bit sloppy, this fire arrow here, but that's all right. I don't need to worry about that just yet. Okay, I think this is going to build, and then we just need to test everything. So let's go here, enable test player cards. We're going to do, let's just test a couple of them. Let's do fire arrow, 2 fire arrows. Let's also do voodoo doll. What else do we need to test? Like a mischance debuff. We could try a jester, I suppose. What else has the mischance debuff? We're stung. Wine. We could try wine. Just gonna test to make sure all these abilities work. Good morning. Normally when you guys do like floor tile sets, how do you guys put the pixels? I put like 32 by 32 and it got so big in my character I okay with so little. What I do when I'm doing art, what I'll usually do is what it sounds like you've done, which is I'll draw the character first and I'll get the character feeling like a good size with respect to like the screen size and everything. And then what I'll do is I'll just bring my character over into a sprite and then I'll draw tiles next to the character and I'll just find a good size based on that. So if 16 by 16 looks good, then I'll do that. If 32 by 32 looks good, I'll do that. And if neither of those sizes look appropriate, I'll do something in between like 24. But yeah, I think, just bring your character into whatever tile map document or tile map file you're working in. And just have the character there on screen so you can draw things proportional to it. And then you can test everything that way. Okay. Applied paralysis duration increased by 3. Applies 8 turns of paralysis to 1 random enemy minion card. Let's give it a shot. I also want to check if the booster works. So this should apply 11 turns. Yeah, there we go. It appears to be working. Very nice. So I have solved my buff applicator problems, I think. So that's good. Let me just see if there's a booster nearby. Contains damage, fire, paralysis. Okay, let's go there. I'm gonna see if I can get this going faster. Cool. Cool. Skip this. I don't know if I'm going to win this combat, but we'll see. I'm probably not going to win this combat. That's okay. Oh, maybe. Maybe. Nice. I did win. Okay. Mostly I'm just trying to get to this booster here because this says it has paralysis abilities. So let's see if it works. Contains paralysis and weapon cards. Let's see if it works. Nice. It did work. Very cool. Awesome. All right, I think that's basically good to go. So that kind of little rework is actually going to enable all kinds of interesting things. But yeah, I'm glad I fixed that issue. So we're good there now. Yeah, there's some stuff that I want to fix for sure, but I'll worry about that later. I do want to rework how this paralysis works, but that's all right. Okay. Finish buff applicator rework. Okay. I'm going to have to close Godot now. I'm going to go merge that branch because I was just doing that in a separate branch. I'm just going to merge that real quick. Switch to the master branch here. Pull down those changes. And then git fetch prune. Alrighty. Adam C. Eunice is a great YouTube channel. I watched him quite a bit when I was learning. Still learning, but don't watch him as much anymore. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to update these booster configurations here to support more debuff types. So we'll do buff applicator, mischance debuff. We'll put all these debuffs together, why not? Type of buff applicator. What other kind of buffs do I have? Critical chance buff. And then we can do this here. Type of mischance debuff, blind, critical chance buff. I don't really have... Oh, this is probably not going to work. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really do critical chance, so never mind for a second. but that's okay. We can definitely do a mischance debuff. And I want to just test this, so I'm going to get rid of these, go back in, and we'll see. This week was my first time doing pixel art. I'm good at programming, but my problem is art, and that's things like size. Character being so little and tile like big, and 16 by 16 is the problem. It's the details. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take some practice to get all those things feeling good and nailed down for sure. Index out of range exception. Oh. I think I need at least 3 of these. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. Just restart until I get one at the beginning. Here we go. Contains blind, paralysis, damage. Okay, so that's what I was looking for. So let's see if I can get a blind card now. Just make sure it works. Look at that. Applies 2,500% blind. Oh my gosh. That's not right. I think I just forgot to update the description here. Okay. You're supposed to talk about your video, sir. The video is pretty awesome. Oh, right. Yeah, Cairo, I do have a pixel art tips video on my channel, but I think somebody asked about that the other day, and I think it may have been you, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I do have a pixel art tips video on my channel that you can check out if you're interested. 25% blind. There we go. Okay, this ability system is working out pretty good, I think. Okay. That's done. That's done. That's done. Okay, and with that, the to-do list is actually much shorter now. There was one thing with the alchemy that I wasn't sure about. There was a moment yesterday where the alchemy was not working correctly. And I want to see what's going on here. I think I did an alchemy yesterday, which gave me 3 cards. Oh, I was just able to double. Anyway, there's an alchemy that gave me 3 cards, and they each had only 1 ability. So I don't understand why that happened, because they should each have. Is that not how it works? They should have an ability added, or, oh, yeah, there's a potential for an ability to be added or removed. That's right. Okay, so it is working. So I just got unlucky and they were all removed. So this had 2 abilities on it, and it had 1 ability removed. These 2 had 2 abilities on them, and 1 ability was added, right? It's actually not a bug, it's just how I designed the system, so it's actually okay. Your ability to work on the same project for more than 6 months is remarkable. Big respect. Got any tips for sticking to this thing? So I think what helps, a lot of times when I'm feeling not motivated to work on my project, usually it's because there's something wrong. Either I'm sensing or noticing that the game is not that fun, or I'm not having fun like with the art style, or maybe the code is a mess and just like even just trying to add simple things makes it a very painful experience. And so there's different solutions to each of those things, right? But you kind of have to judge for yourself, why is it that you're not motivated to work on your project? usually the reason I'm not motivated is it's not because the code isn't clean. It's not because I don't enjoy the art. It's because there's a problem with the game design that's making the game not fun. And so I'm basically just working on not even a game at that point. Because if it's not fun and I don't want to play it and no one else wants to play it, then what is it that I'm working on? It kind of loses motivation, right? I kind of lose motivation when that happens. And so I think what you need to do is realize that's happening and then focus your efforts on fixing whatever game design problems there are that's making it not fun to begin with, right? Because it's easy to keep adding new content and like writing new scripts and stuff, but if the game is not fun fundamentally, then what you should be focusing on then is your game design. There's something about your game design that's making the game not fun, which in turn makes the game not fun to work on. So to answer your question more directly, the reason why I'm finding it easy to stick with Alka Mortis here is because I think it is fun. I think there's a lot of things going for it in terms of game design that are making it fun. I still have a couple of design problems that are going to be fixed, but yeah, the game is just fun from a top-down standpoint. The code is fun to work on, the art is fun to work on, and the gameplay itself is fun. And so that makes it a lot easier to hop in every day and work on it for at least a couple of hours. I haven't been here in a while. I wanted to thank you since watching your streams helped motivate me, as I've been spending tons of time developing my first game. Thank you. You're welcome, Ruin Star, and welcome back to the stream. I'm very glad to hear that. It was you. Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah. What do you think of John Romero recommending Unreal Engine? How do we pick between Unreal Engine or Godot? Well, I didn't hear anything about. I'm not very plugged into game development spaces, to be honest. So I don't know anything that's happening in the space really. But I think the answer to the how do you pick between UE or Godot, you have to do an analysis. You have to figure out which tool is going to be more appropriate for your use case. If Unreal gives you all of the tools that you need to make your game, then use Unreal. And if Godot has more of what you're after, then use Godot. It's they're technical tools. It's not like, trying to pick a universal best option. It's like they're tools and you have to figure out which tool is going to be best for what you're trying to do. So that's how you choose. Oh, I was talking about the double inspector. Yeah, the double inspector. I don't know. I still don't know how to reproduce it. Because, that was, the only time that I was able to actually reproduce it. And I don't even know what I did. Maybe there's a situation where there could be some overlap or something. I don't know. I'm trying really hard to break this and it's not breaking. Unreal is 125 gigabytes and Godot is 250 megabytes. I mostly code on laptops, so the choice is pretty straightforward. Yeah. Well, I think if you're going to be the kind of developer that works in Unreal, you probably have a beefy PC anyway. The game development lately is more financially than development. It's crazy doing a game that has no support to reach people. Thinking what people want, how your work to reach people is key. Okay, so what was I doing? Oh, I was testing the boosters. The boosters are working fine. The boosters are working just fine. Yep. Unfortunately, I only have one blind card really, so it's always going to give the giant squid, but that's all right. That's okay. Alrighty, let's see what else is working, or what else is interesting to work on. Improvements to the combat log. Negative alchemy should note that the effect was applied to self-enemy depending on the context. Self-damage should note this fact. I do want to make those changes to the combat log. The problem is I don't know. Reagents are still dropping with tiers. I should fix that one too. This is Obsidian with the Kanban plugin. Okay, tell you what, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we'll figure out what to do. Maybe the combat log stuff is the good one to do. But yeah, we'll see in just a second. BRB. Okay, I'm back. Let's take a look at the combat log. Why not? Let's do it. Okay, so negative alchemy should note that the effect was applied to self. Okay, so this is where we're going to get into the combat log stuff now. And I have a feeling this is going to be very tricky here. Combat log manager. So when damage is applied, we need to be able to feel that. So here we've got dealt damage. So we're going to need to look at this damage dealt entry to board from board. So we do have a record of what the board is. Is player board acting? Is enemy board acting? Right, okay. So maybe this is player board acting. Oh, I'm not using these anywhere. Okay. I almost was going to use those, but they're not actually being used, so that's not good. All right. Current state, log state, player board, enemy board. Okay, so that's just in the log state. So what I think I can do is in this damage string here, I could do var self string is equal to, we're going to say, let's do current state is equal to state player board and damage dealt entry dot 2 board. Oh, I don't have... Shoot, I don't think I have a way to determine if it was dealt to self. 2 board from board. 2 board. Oh, board manager is enemy board. Okay. Get execution string for damage dealt. I see. Current state. When does this state gets changed to card? Log state.card. Card state entered. Okay. So this is not actually correct. What the heck? I don't think I have enough information here to do what I need to do. Is enemy board. I think I can patch together something. Let's do this. Private bool is self damage. Damage dealt entry. Turn history entry dot damage dealt entry. Damage dealt entry. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do if current state is not equal to log state.card, then we're just going to return false. Okay. Let's do var is enemy self damage is equal to var board manager is equal to context helper dot board manager. I guess that doesn't really make a difference. This dot get board manager. We'll just say if board manager equals null, return false. Okay. So in here, enemy self damage, we're going to say board manager is enemy board and board manager dot is get cardboard owner active card. This has to be damage dealt entry dot buy card. Let's also do this. If damage dealt entry dot buy card equals null, return false. Cardboard owner damage equals damage dealt entry dot to board. Right. And then we'll do var is player self damage. Board manager get player board equals damage dealt entry to board, and get cardboard owner buy card is equal to 2 board. Okay. If is enemy self damage, return true. If is player self-damage return true, return false. Okay. So now we have this method to check if it's self-damage. So this self string here will do if is self-damage, damage dealt entry. Then we're going to do to self, otherwise string.empty. Okay. Let's do this. Var entry string is equal to that. Then we're going to return entry string self string. Okay. So let's try it. We can try it pretty easily now with the Orbido class, I think. So we'll go to game debug. Get rid of this Orbido class. Anyone know if this is VS Code? It is VS Code, yes. Welcome, Bryce, by the way. Do you use a lot of command pattern in Alchemortis? To be honest, I don't know. I don't really have a good, like, theoretical knowledge of all of the programming patterns. Like, I wouldn't be able to give you a textbook definition of what a command pattern is, to be honest. Because I just haven't spent much time actually studying what the patterns are. But it is absolutely possible that the architecture that I've built utilizes a number of patterns that could be identified, like the command pattern. I just can't tell you that that was a very conscious choice. I didn't sit down and say, I'm going to do the command pattern and do it. But the way that my code is being built could very easily have elements of command pattern in it. Okay, let's see if this works. Orbido classed. We'll go this way. Does the entire US don't celebrate New Year? No, we celebrate New Year. Yeah. There will be lots of New Year celebration. I mean, you know New York, Times Square, right? The ball drop. But no, where I live though, it's too snowy to do anything. Orbido class dealt 4 damage to self. Look at that. Okay, so we're noting that self in there now. Cool. Very nice. All right, so I think that's working. Is that the only thing that I wanted to do here? I think that's it, actually. I think we're done with that. That was actually quite easy. I should test at least a negative alchemy, I suppose. So let's see if we can do that. Go do this, this, and this. Let's see if we can get a negative alchemy out of this. And we didn't. Okay. That's okay. I want a negative alchemy. Come on. What the heck? Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll just do a bunch of candles. And we'll throw all those in. Need to get a negative alchemy ability that I can test for the combat log. It should be fine because it's like an ability is an ability. Apply 6 preserve to enemy. Oh, this, yeah, I'm going to need to handle this case as well. If I do this, and it's going to add shielding to the enemy. then I should probably note that. Applied 6 preserve. Yeah, that needs to be 2 enemy. Okay. Shoot. Now I have to figure out. Is self damage. Oh, I guess this isn't going to work. No, it should. So I actually don't want this. This has to change up here. Get execution string for status applied. So this would be applied shield here, shield status. So now I need to know if this is going to happen to the enemy or to the player. Holy status, shield status. So fire, poison, bleed, and holy. No. Fire, poison, and bleed. If those are applied to self, they need to say to self. Am I tracking buffs in here as well? Do I not have paralysis? Oh, here. Paralysis debuff. Okay. I think I'm also missing blind in here. Blind and critical chance. Okay. So that's going to need to change as well. So we got a number of things to change. But anyway, this bleed, poison, and fire status, if this is applied to self, then it needs to say to self. And for shield and holy, if this is applied to enemy, and then it needs to be setish as such. Status applied entry. Private bool is self status applied. If current state is not equal to log state.card, return false. Status applied entry. Oh, this is not logging the board that it's on. Track status applied. Status applied entry. This is the status component. Apply status context. Where is this used? So I think what I probably should do is do like a public required board to board here. I should probably change this to just get init. Okay, and then in here, we want to do to board equals target board. I need to include that information. So we'll go ahead and do that. Status applicator. Am I using this anywhere? Snailcat status applicator. Okay, well, I wonder if I should be using that elsewhere. But we are not going to worry about that right now. Apply status context. Status applicator. Maybe I should be using the status applicator. Anyway, player boards. We'll do to board equals player board. So we're just passing in that information. So now in my status component, I can pass that along. Apply status, status applied entry. We're going to change this public required board to board, get init. Then in here, we can simply do to board equals context.toBoard. So we're just passing that along into the turn history entry. So that's an additional piece of data that we have. And so now if I go back to my combat log manager here, that status applied entry now has the to board data. So if is enemy self status, return true, status applied entry to board is enemy board, and board manager get cardboard owner is equal to status applied entry to board. Okay. Okay. So now we go up here. Var is self status applied is equal to is self status applied here. Get execution string for status applied. So I think I'm going to do something a little bit weird here. I'm going to make this return a nullable bool, and I'm going to return null here. Okay. Oops, I did the wrong one. My bad. Because there's basically three states here that I need to account for. It's if we're not in the log state card, then that's just like kind of a no op, so just return null. If we are targeting ourselves as the enemy, and if we are targeting ourselves as the player, those will both return true. If that's not true, then return false. So just making it nullable, so I basically have that third piece of information, which is if this should be a no op or not. And then we can work with that here. So for fire, poison, let's group all of these together. So shield and holy should be applied to each other, or to yourself. So is self status applied? Var status self string is equal to is self status equals null. We're going to do string.empty, else is self status equals true to self no equals false to enemy. Okay, and then we should be able to just do self string there. And then after this block, so we'll do statuses that should be applied to enemy. Wait, did I do this wrong? And then these are statuses that should be applied to self. So what I'm going to do here now is, this is going to be a little bit weird, but this code is not great. I'm going to say if self string is not equal to string not empty, self string equals to enemy. I'm going to pass this here. Okay, I don't think that's entirely nice, but it's fine. So basically, if the self status is null, we're just going to include no self targeting text or enemy targeting text at all. But if self status is true, then fire, poison, and bleed are all going to say to self there. And then if self status is true down here, oh wait. Yeah, no, I need to change this. If is self status equals false. So if I think I need to do this. I don't know. So basically these ones are supposed to apply to self. So if they're not applying to the self, we change the text to enemy. Otherwise we change it to empty. So basically, if preserve is being applied to yourself, it shouldn't say to self. It's just going to say preserve because that's what it is supposed to do, right? It's only when the shield gets applied to the enemy, when it shouldn't, or when it doesn't typically get applied to the enemy, that it should say to enemy. Anyway, again, this code is not good, but we're going to try it out. I look super cute today. Thank you, I guess, Felsefe. Giga Chad jawline. I don't know. I'm looks maxing, I guess. Watch out, everybody. Firebelly looks maxing. You're not going to be able to handle it. Okay. Let's see if we can get some alchemies going here. Increase turn cooldown by 1. That doesn't help me. This is the part of the game where I just try to get some negative alchemies randomly. Apply 1 bleed to self. That'll work. Let's see if that prints into the combat log properly. And hopefully it does. Candle applied 1 bleed to self. Look at that. Excellent. And that's just in the code that we just changed here. Bleed status to self. Cool. Healed. Oh, healed to self. That's not right. Shoot. I'm going to fix that real quick. Okay, I think that should work. Shouldn't say healed to self, that doesn't make any sense. So I do have plans to make this combat log a lot more comprehensive as well. Like what I would love to do for the combat log is, let me get some cards in here first. I would love to make the combat log interactable, so you could like hover over text or click on text and have it show you what card it's referring to. But that's not in scope for just right now. So I don't have any logging for blinding, which is fine. But we are going to make the combat log more comprehensive here. Combat log is such a good idea. Would have never considered such a thing. Yeah, I wasn't really going to do it either, but a lot of you who are watching right now, many months ago, said, hey, I would love to be able to see in a combat log, like what's going on. And that was a very common request. And so I was like, okay, well, let's see if we could do that. And fortunately, because I already had a system in place for logging the entire history of all the abilities that are executed, that was to support gameplay purposes, because sometimes I need to have abilities that can read the ability history and scale off of, you know, how many total abilities were executed or what was the sum total of damage between this turn and that turn. And so I already had that. And so it was just a matter of hooking in some signals into that turn history system so that the combat log could respond to each entry as it gets added and then just stringify it basically. So it ended up being relatively simple. It ended up being relatively simple, but there's still a lot more that I want to do with the combat log system. Major pro of streaming is your development is getting auto feedback. It's only a pro if you have enough viewers who are active in the stream, right? I would imagine that, you know, if you're a smaller YouTuber, or you're just starting out and you're expecting to get a lot of feedback from your streams, it's probably not going to happen because you have to build the audience first. Like when I started streaming a couple of years ago, or several years ago at this point, I was basically talking into the void for like months. Like I would have like 2 viewers, but I just kept talking during my stream as if I had an audience, and gradually more regular viewers started showing up. So yeah, I remember the first stream of yours I watched, and it was when you were designing a scroll bar. Remember it as if it was yesterday. Interesting. I don't know if I remember that. Oh, this is not working either. So paralyzed self isn't working. Okay, so negative alchemy logs incorrectly in combat log. In maybe turn history, because it works only if on edge of board. I'm gonna need to check that out. Anyway, I should probably just create some negative alchemies directly on the card itself. Let's see how feasible that is. Enemy heal. Yeah, let's do this. Run manager. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . Add composed abilities. Var negative alchemies is equal to negative alchemy negative abilities dot negative abilities. We'll do 3 negative alchemies. All right, let's see what that does. So instead of trying to fiddle with the alchemy system here, I'm just going to add the negative abilities that I want to test, and we'll see how that goes. So the candle, apply 2 bleed to self. So let's just make sure that that's still working. I should also do this. Enable test player cards, generate test map, training dummy. How do you feel about globals, specifically groups? If I recall correctly, use groups in your Vampire Survivors. Yeah, I think groups are appropriate to use. You got to make sure, like anything, not to overuse them. And if you're going to fetch something from a group, you have to make sure that you're doing it very defensively. So you have to kind of assume that if you are fetching a node from a group, that there is a chance that there is no node belonging to that group for whatever reason, because you're in a different scene or because it hasn't been instantiated yet or whatever. Like a classic case of this is the player, right? So you put the player in a group so that way the camera can follow the player and so that enemies can identify the player or whatever else. But if the player dies, you may want to actually free the player or remove the player from the scene tree. And so anything that's getting the player as a reference from a group has to be defensively programmed to handle the null case. That's the only thing that I would caution against. Try not to overuse it, and when you do use it, you have to always build your code with the assumption that the value could be null. If you do those two things, then I think groups are totally fine, totally appropriate to use. Okay, so that's working. Healed 1, applied 1 preserve. Cool, so what's the enemy shield then? Negative abilities. Enemy shield is 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll put that in there. I have them in my game, but they feel fragile. You can definitely use them in a way where they're fragile, yeah. Interesting to see your Trello. Yeah, don't use groups to like identify components, just use export and the inspector. Yeah, groups are mostly useful for like if you need to get a reference to a node and the node that needs a reference to it is like in a completely different part of the scene tree and it's like 5 or 6 layers removed where it becomes infeasible to like pass around this reference to all these different parents and stuff. Like generally speaking, like there's a reason why Godot gives you all of these tools. You know, I would be hesitant to say like never use groups because like if it wasn't an appropriate tool, it wouldn't be in the Godot engine, right? So I think every piece of functionality within Godot has its place. You just have to be careful about whether you're applying the tool correctly or not. Okay, that seems to be working. So I think we fixed that. That's great. So now we got to do blind on self and like self damage and all that, or not self damage, self paralysis. Okay. I think it's very important that the combat log logs every appropriate action for the next playtest, because as it stands right now, the combat log is just straight up not logging some things. But we're about to correct that. Get execution string for ability. Targeted cards, target info, targeted cards. If entry data dot ability is iBoard queryable. This is not an iBoard queryable. So this may not actually work. Do I need to do this? Card abilities executed entry. Buff applicator. I actually don't know how this works. Abilities executed entry, create abilities executed entry. In here, if executing ability is target provider, target info.add targeted cards. Ability target info, executing ability, enhance context based cards. I actually don't think this is going to work. Maybe I should try a paralysis here. With the Medusa head. Let me just see how this works. I actually think I may have broken this. I actually am doing the exact scenario we mentioned with the player. Yeah. Found the first stream of yours I watched, though I don't think I sent messages back then, and the stream was from the 10th of July, 2025. Oh, interesting. Okay. There was a period of time where I was streaming every day as well, but that was like I was like back in 2020 or 2021 or something like that. And I took a break from streaming, and then I came back to it. Probably because I got that pattern from the course, yeah. Have you already made a tutorial for Alchemortis? No, I want to do a very, very like comprehensive and rich and fun tutorial for the game. But that's not in scope for at least the next playtest coming up. So that will be handled eventually, but I think it's like player education is going to be absolutely critical. It's going to be absolutely critical. Okay, so I did break something here. The problem is this combat log manager, if entry data.ability is iBoard queryable. So I got rid of this iBoard queryable like across the code base. So not the references, but the implementations. So there's only a couple of items that actually implement this iBoard queryable. And I think I'm going to change that as well. But this used to be implemented all throughout the code base, and now it's basically just implemented on this query target provider here. I have this new target provider. So I think what I need to do is I need to go to my buff applicator, and I actually need to make this extend target provider. Or target cached provider. And then what I'm going to do in here is we've got public base card get cached targets. Return target provider get cached targets. So basically that cache target provider requires that this kind of method be implemented, get cached targets. And then what I can do in my combat log here is I can change this to target cached provider, target provider. And then in here, targeted cards, target provider, get cached targets. I think that might work. So if I go back in here now, do I time box my games? You mean, do I set like a deadline for the game to be released by? Or do you mean each individual session, like work session, is time boxed? Medusa or Gorgon head, paralyzed training dummy for 4 turns. Okay, so that worked. Okay. So that is now working, but the self-paralysis, if on the edge of the board, that is something that's not going to work. So which one is the self-paralysis here? Which one is the self-paralysis? Alchemy negative abilities. Paralyzed self. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got to fix this issue as well. Let's go here, paralyze self for 4 turns. How actually does that work? Self query only. Okay. So it has to be on the edge of the board, but the thing I'm looking into is that it logs in the combat log even if it doesn't apply. So let's see. Yeah, paralyzed for 4 turns. That's not right. So that paralysis is still being logged for some reason, even though the magnitude, or even though it's conditional. So why is that happening? Why is that happening? If we go to the alchemy negative abilities here, paralyze self on edge of board, buff applicator, query target provider. Oh, I see. So it's logging to the combat log. It's the buff applicator that's being logged, right? So if I go to I have too many things open. Go to my combat log manager. Yeah, the buff applicator. So this is being executed. However, it didn't, so it executed, but it executed against 0 targets. So that's why it's being logged in the combat log. It didn't affect any targets though. Actually, that could be a problem too. I think what I should probably do actually is I should... Do I have anything that scales based off of paralysis applied? I don't think so. So I just thought of another problem. If I ever wanted to track how many times paralysis was applied, that's actually an interesting concept because this buff applicator is going to execute once, right? But it may affect 3 cards when it executes down here. So if I ever wanted to track the number of applications of a certain buff or debuff, I would need to make sure to track the actual number, not just the number of executions of this buff applicator. But I don't think I need to worry about that right now. It's just something to keep in mind, I suppose. Anyway, so in here, I think this is just going to be as simple as taking this target provider. We're going to do var cached targets is equal to target provider get cached targets. If cached targets dot length is equal to 0, we're going to return null. So we're just going to bail out if a target provider didn't target anything. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to say if target provider shoot. Yeah, this is going to be a problem. I'm not going to be able to say if the ability... maybe... Hold on a second. Applied this. ability target info, targeted cards, ability. I should make this. So the problem is I don't have a reference to the card that did this ability in this entry data here. And I'm iterating over all of those entry data, or I'm not iterating over it, but I'm handling those each individually. So this get execution string for ability here. This is just getting the active card here. Okay, so I do have the active card. So maybe I'll change this so that it passes in the active card here. Okay, and then we can pass this in here. All right, so now we have the active card. So I should be able to do something like, now wait a minute, I don't even need to do this either. Ability target info. We had the targeted cards in here. So if entry data dot ability, no, target info dot targeted cards. I already have this data. What am I doing? Targeted cards dot count is greater than 0. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, we don't need this get cached targets. We don't need this. Entry data dot target info, targeted cards. Okay, I'm going to, targeted cards is equal to entry data dot target info dot targeted cards. Okay. If targeted cards dot count, select all those. Oh, targeted cards. Yeah, I already have that data, so I actually don't need that. Anyway, if targeted cards dot length dot count is equal to 1, and targeted cards 0 is equal to active card, targeted card string equals self. Cool. Else targeted card string there. And we're going to change this. If targeted cards dot count is equal to 0, we're going to return null. We can get rid of this. All right, I think that will work. So I think the paralyze should be fixed now. And then we've got to add some more stuff to the combat log. Do you set a hard date on which you will finish a game, or set out with a date in mind at the start of development? Yeah, the thing is, I'm still kind of learning what my capabilities are with respect to game design. Game design specifically. I think all of my other skills are good enough to make a game, so programming, art, and all that stuff. The thing that's really still a remaining challenge for me to learn is like proper game design. So I do set deadlines kind of for myself. Like I've set a couple of playtest deadlines so far for this game, and I have a rough idea of when I want Alchemy Mortis to be out next year. But at the same time, like I do want to learn as much as I can about game design and apply those learnings and keep refining the game until it's like feeling really fun, and that the game design actually works well and keeps players playing and keeps players engaged. And that, you know, will take an unknown amount of time. So I don't necessarily commit to a release date because I want to make sure that the game is as good as it can be. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. Anyway. Hello, people who still aren't on the 2026 version of the Hello World. How you doing over there? I'm doing all right. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, the candle is not paralyzing or not logging a paralysis anymore. And so now if I put it at the edge of the board, it should log itself as being paralyzed. Oh, it did not work. Well, I guess we'll just put a breakpoint here and see why this didn't work. Okay, ability. Let's just see if we get through this here. Okay, targeted cards. Candle. So it targeted itself. These are the same reference, so it should log the target itself. Entry data.ability. Oh, it's a query target provider. Ah. Right. Targeted card. Okay, so the problem is what are you gruffing at, buddy? What are you gruffing at? So the problem is this buff applicator, it actually doesn't get logged. That ability target info doesn't get logged in there. So what do I want to do about that? If executing ability is target provider. Maybe that's what I want to do. So if I do target provider here, and then I do get targets here. Is that right? Oh, I need to take in the execution context. So if I do this, I think that will work. So anything that implements target provider ends up getting logged ultimately in this target info inside of this entry data for the turn history. So this target info is only going to be populated with targeted cards here if the ability that's executing currently, if this ability here implements target provider. So I think that should work. Let's try it again. I feel like tutorials in general are very challenging because they have to hook the player and teach them at the same time. Right, yeah. Yeah. I think it's the tutorial is probably going to be very hard to do from a number of standpoints. Paralyzed system collections generic list base card. All right. Well, that definitely didn't work. Targeted cards.count. I don't know why this isn't working. Oh. Target card string. Oops. Forgot to change that down there. Okay, let's see if this works. So I put this on the edge of the board. Candle paralyzed self for 4 turns. Look at that. Now it's showing up. Okay. I think we only have like one more thing to do here. Let me just, I guess, commit this stuff. More improvements to combat log. I think I need to do something in here. Let's do buff applicator mischance debuff. Blinded targeted card string. By description utils. Dot float to percent magnitude divided by 100f magnitude or 0 blinded targeted card string by that percent description utils. Okay, let's see if the blind works. Alchemy negative abilities. Do I have like a blind self? Self mischance. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So we'll go to the run manager here. Do 7 all the way down here, I think. I actually don't remember where it is. Populate player cards. 7. All right, let's see. Why does Poison and Fire have like 4 brackets? That's so when you're doing like a template string in C#, the brackets, the curly braces are used to determine an expression that needs to be evaluated and inserted into the string. But if you want to do a literal curly brace inside of the string, then you need to escape it with a second curly brace. And for my purposes, keywords within strings are surrounded by 2 pairs of curly braces, which means that if I want 2 pairs of curly braces to be in the final string output, I need to escape both pairs, which creates 4 pairs of curly braces. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that is why. Blinded self by 20%. Look at that. Boom. So that's working great. That is working real good. Okay, I think the next one is... I probably should do all the buffs here. Oh. Yeah, to do blind and critical chance. So this should be to do expand to cover all buffs. Anyway, I think those are good changes though. I think those are good changes. So just keep expanding out the combat log, keep adding more ability support to it, and it's going to turn out very good. It's going to turn out very good. I'm not done with the combat log yet, so I'll move this back over. Anyway, that's going to be it for the stream today. thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. Always good to see you all. Again, if you're interested, please wishlist Alchemortis on Steam. It's available for wishlisting, and it would help me out a lot. You can also check out the Patreon if you want to support there. And you can join the Discord. You can check out my courses, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. And yeah, I'll see you in the new year tomorrow. I will probably be working tomorrow morning, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.